out now, which is crazy. Because I used to always just go in for the free thing and have half an hour before they kicked me out, for things for our church and that sort of thing. So kind of do it on the low flyby thing. So now we're going to be all official. And, we're going to look at doing something regular as far as getting on and talking to you guys. So I think it's going to be something fun. And this is our first try. So if we don't do well, then we don't do well. So we'll see. But we're excited about what's going on here with next weekend. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. The weather is looking pretty good. So pretty excited about that. It's hard to believe sometimes that we are still in really wintertime. Yeah, we're excited to get a couple warm days and makes us forget. So here we are, 70 degrees yesterday, and our high today was 35 for any that aren't in the area here. And I'm sure those of you that are up further north of us, it's probably worse than that. As he head shaking. Yeah. So we're kind of lucky. So we're right near the ocean kind of thing, and then the southern tip of New Jersey. So we stay a little bit warmer even than say Philadelphia and anywhere further north. So, but so excited. And I guess I'm going to jump in. I think we're about 5 minutes in, so this is what we got. So for those you don't know, I'm Dave Off. I'm from Waldor Orchids. I'm a something generation orchid grower. Okay, we say it that way, and I always explain myself. That's because we got started. My grandfather founded the business 1925. He had 4 children. His first wife passed away and married my grandma. She's 20 years younger than him. So we sort of another generation tucked in there. And so who knows how we count that. But anyway, I grew up growing orchids, grew up here really at the shop. I was only born about 100 feet from where I'm sitting right now. So that's kind of funny. Anyway, so we grew up here at the shop. Those of you that, most of you are customer base. So you know us for Cattleyas, and we grow all kinds of genera. It's Cymbidium season right now. So we got a lot of that going on, and we carry a little bit of everything else. So, but what we're trying to do with this festival is to bring in some different orchid people that our customer base may not be familiar with. If you don't go to the local shows, you may not have met these people. If you do go to local shows, then I'm sure you're very familiar with the people that you're going to meet next weekend here at our shop. So we're really excited to do this because some of the local shows that we really count on for product that we grow specifically for just this time of the year have been canceled. And this is really just a way to get our product out there. I know a lot of you that are used to coming to Waldorf for our special events are coming for like our post-flower show sale, or we'd have a summer sale or something like that. This is not a sale. I want to be very clear about that. This is not one of our special sales we do through the year. We still will do something in December. But this is just an event to bring people together around our favorite plants, which are orchids, and also to bring in some people that grow really specialize in very specific types of orchids that we don't necessarily specialize here at Waldorf. So we're trying to bring in a variety of plants and a variety of people. And I think it's going to be a fun event. The weather's looking great. Our place is looking pretty spiffy. Then we also want to point out that we were never built to be a retail operation. We were built as a cut flower operation. So our place is what it is. And the reason we probably haven't done this before is we really don't have the best space for it, but this is we're going to make do with because we want to do a special event. And like I said, we're excited to bring people in. So for those of you who've been to our shop before, when you walk in our front door, that area you walk into is called our packing area. Those tables are specially made actually for packing flowers and cut flower boxes. So they're actually a little low on purpose and that sort of thing. But that area where we normally have set up for our retail sales on the weekends, that is going to be taken over by J&L and Kim Fedderson's Fair Orchids and also Carrie Raven. They're going to be up in the front room there right where you first walk in. So we really want to promote these other growers that, like I said, if you haven't been to the local shows, you may not have seen before. We really want to promote their product. And our kind of a reason for getting together here tonight is to really show you guys something that maybe you haven't seen before. Like I said, if you haven't been to the show, so get to know these people a little bit more. So we're going to start with Carrie. She's on my top left. So we'll start with her. This is Carrie Raven from Orchid File. Carrie really specializes, I would say, in Phalaenopsis and especially miniature Phalaenopsis and really, really interesting color forms and shapes. And I'm kind of let her talk about herself. I think Carrie's been doing this long enough. She can really go on and tell us exactly what she does. So if we can get Carrie on, we'll start with that.
I'm on. I'm unmuted.
Welcome.
Okay. Well, I've known Dave since we won't say how young he was. That's how long I've been in the business. started out innocently enough as a hobby when I lived in New York City. And there was a designer I was modeling for, and Ralph Lauren, and he always had orchids in the showroom, always had orchids. And I went in there for a fitting one day, and he was going to throw an orchid away. And I said, "Oh, don't do that. I'll take it back to my apartment and I'll get it to flower." And guess what? I did. And the rest is history.
Nice.
When I got a little too long in the tooth to fool all the designers as to how old I really was, all of a sudden the orchids became a business. And I didn't realize that that would happen. Most of the girls, when they retired, went into real estate or something like, oh no, I went into orchids big time. So I've been doing it for now 40 years. Yeah. And I started out with Phalaenopsis, thanks to a mentor, a lot of you know, Carlos Faghetti, who was president of the AOS. He lived up in Jersey, and he brought me along on Phalaenopsis because that's what he specialized in. And in those days, all you had to choose from were different colors of the really big flowered phals, the big cascading sprays that everybody thinks of as a Phalaenopsis. But as time went on, I wound up getting to know a lot of the Taiwanese growers, and Taiwan was taking off as a great area of breeding for Phalaenopsis in particular. And the Taiwanese started inviting me to come judge their show every year in when is it? Beginning of March. So since 2007, I have been there every year, except for the last 2 COVID years. And they have taught me so much about potting with moss, about growing, about breeding. And I became enamored of the brightly colored, what we call novelty flowers. They're usually fragrant. Many of them are shorter, spiked. And on a first bloomer, you only get maybe 1 spike with 3 or 4 flowers, but you grow it on a couple more years, you get the plant surrounded with spikes because they keep, the old spike stays green, keeps adding buds and makes more spikes. And my first love over there, way back in 07, was multifloral miniatures. And they were doing great things with multifloral miniatures. And I have limited space, a lot of people do. And even though I've got 2 greenhouses, they're not huge. So the more plants I could fit in the greenhouse, the better. So I got into the multifloral minis too. The advantage to the novelties is they tend to bloom spring into summer into fall. And even if the old flowers have faded, they're still slowly going to make a bud or 2 over the winter and then reactivate like crazy in the spring. And the fragrance is wonderful. And then I got hooked on other miniatures, different genera that grow and flower under foul conditions. Same light, same temperature, but they're miniatures. And a lot of them are Cattleyas, miniature dendrobiums. There are miniatures. Uncidni, there are little Uncidni. They're fabulous miniatures. I'm just trying to think of all, and there are a lot of intergeneric plants that are also miniatures. Oh, Vandaceous, also miniatures, all the miniatures. I love the miniatures. So that's my background, basically.
Do you do any of your own breeding?
No. Okay. Taiwan does it so much better and so much faster.
Yeah, right.
They have got the ideal conditions. They can bring a plant from seed to first flowering within 1.5 to 2 years. You know how long it would take us, right, Dave?
Yeah.
No, it made no sense. Yeah. If I wanted to make a cross, I could give them the seed pod and have them grow it there, but they have the best stock in the world to work with as parents.
Right.
Why bother unless I have something really sensational, in which case I'll give the pollen to one of my breeder friends over there and let him breed on with it. Yeah, they're so much better at it than I ever would be.
Definitely. Yeah. So you've been doing this a while with the miniatures. Is there anything like new coming along in miniatures, or any specific thing in any of the genera that you grow that you say is really new or different?
Okay, in miniatures, I would say they've been taking miniatures and crossing them with a novelty, a waxy, fragrant novelty, which retains the miniature habit, but gives you the fragrance and the longer lasting flowers. And in the novelties, the hottest new thing are blues, 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 blue minis, blue novelties, anything blue, even a novelty with blue in the lateral sepals or blue around the column. People are going bonkers for blues.
Does that come from one specific species, the blue?
The violation,
Just
probably.
violation?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little, but there are also blue color forms of Belina now. There's cerulean. They're your indigo form of violation. You've got blue color forms of Pulcherima, which breeds multifloral minis. There are a lot of variations even within the species on color. And if you want to question, are they really straight or not species? We don't know for sure. SITF would have to determine that if they were looking at a species. A lot of people are questioning, is the indigo violation really a violation?
Right.
We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know. You know,
Okay.
and I'm not going to worry about it. As long as it
Yeah.
produces a beautiful blue flower, as a parent, it's great for me.
Awesome. Yeah. So I like the big lip fails, and
Oh,
seems
I
like you can
adore
find
the
almost
big lips.
anything now, like any color,
Oh my God.
shape, size.
I've got multifloral miniature big lips. That's brand new.
I
And
just
I
feel like
remember,
it's so amazing how quickly they come out with something new in them. It's crazy.
yeah, no, it isn't new. It's been around a long time.
No, I
We
mean just
were
like a new
at,
color form. You can get like any color now,
yep,
any shape,
we
size.
were at Fuller's Orchid Nursery. Oh my gosh, that's going back to what, 2009? He was one of the first people to be breeding the big lips. And they were all the classic standard size flowers. And he's used a lot of his plants, in addition to things that came from UPenn, to breed on for more big lips. But now the newest thing, like I said, are multifloral mini big lips, which we were never seeing before.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm
And
very
there's
excited
some,
about that.
there are some pretty ugly ones. When we go judge the show every year there, we've seen some where the lip juts out or it drops way down. You could drive a bus through it. Or it's super copped or it's crippled, but the good ones are fabulous. And I think we're going to see a lot more of the multifloral mini big lips. We're starting to see yellow big lips now.
Oh yeah. How
But
about Polarics or anything
and the
like that?
Polarics are new too. I mean, again, with the petals that mimic the lip, or they've got the two eyes. In other words, a little dot on each petal, a little white dot, which is a form of Polaria. Yeah. Yeah, it's just a, you know, the world has opened way up thanks to the breeding done over there.
So a couple things too on the end where you're say importing most of your stuff, and also on the sphagnum moss end. How are you dealing with say shortages and things getting harder to find? How are you dealing with that?
Carrie got lucky. I bought, I don't know how many bales. Oh, 12, I think. Big bales. What are they? 3 kilo bales?
3 to 5, depending on the quality. Yeah.
Months before the shortage hit.
Nice.
So I'm lucky. Now there still is moss available, but it's Chilean moss.
Yep.
Which is what they use in Taiwan. And it's not as good. I tell people if they get a plant in the Chilean moss, when it's time to repot, get good moss. Hopefully we're going to have good moss coming in this month. Maybe. They said February. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen moss though. I mean, I went all over Florida back when I was down to Frank's last month, and anywhere where they carried moss, whether it was OFE or one of the suppliers down there, if I saw they had a bunch of moss, I would ask them and say, hey, what do you think about sphagnum? Because sphagnum moss is going to go up at least 50% over the price it was last year.
Oh, the New Zealand? Oh, it's more than 50.
But it's almost anything, like any type. It doesn't even matter whether it's New Zealand or whatever. It's very hard to get now. And the prices just seems like it's gone sky high.
Try getting clear pots to grow in. But now you can go on Amazon and find the flexi pots that they use, which are like the liner pots.
Yep.
All the Asian people who are importing them have set up their own little business. And you can buy a stack of 50 or 100 of them. And you throw them away. Once you use them once, you throw them away. They're very flexible. Yeah. But they're clear, you know, and they work.
Have you had any problems with the plant end of things, getting plants in?
No, except for the cost of shipping.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Anyway.
Air freight quintupled, has quintupled.
I can't even do the math.
The broker fees have doubled.
Yeah.
And then bringing things up from Miami, which is port of entry, once they go through PQ up to here,
Yeah.
air cargo by Southwest or Delta, that's doubled.
Yeah.
And I have to drive an hour and a half just to get to the right airport to pick them up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So gasoline has
Yeah.
almost doubled now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just everything's gone up. It's supply and demand.
Definitely. Definitely.
So, but those of us who love our orchids, we don't care. It's a hobby, and we'll invest in it. And it brings a lot of people pleasure. I know a lot of people working from home have told me, a lot of my clients, they said, my collection has never looked so good because I pay attention to it now.
Yeah, I think it's gone both ways. Some people have just kind of gotten in their own little funk, and other people have really gotten excited about stuff. And we've seen it take off in many different directions, with new collectors, with people collecting different things, people starting, say, terrariums, and all that sort of thing. So we're just seeing a lot of people changing over and a lot of, I think, interesting things happening. I like to ask people like you how you're coping with what's going on, because I think it's interesting to find out.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it's the only way to get what I really want.
That's right.
Right now, Taiwan is the place for the phals, literally.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and, if it gets really, really cold and I've got some baby seedlings in the greenhouse, I've got a bunch of, they're made by Vivo Sun, heat mats, propagating mats.
Oh, yeah.
And they're 1020s, which is a normal tray.
Mm-hmm.
And you just put them on the mat in the tray, and it keeps the root zone 68, 72 degrees.
Yeah, and that's the important part.
And you can bring them along. Yeah, the babies are a little more finicky.
Yep.
They need a little more warmth.
Yeah,
so I've got about 6 of those in the greenhouse now, so I don't have to heat the whole greenhouse that much.
So you grow basically, I've actually never been to your place. So a greenhouse, what size greenhouse?
2 greenhouses. I think total square footage is about 1,000 square feet.
Awesome. Yeah. That's a lot of miniature plants.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. And one thing I forgot to mention to a lot of people, the novelties especially, but even a lot of the multifloral minis will bloom twice a year easily, readily. But none of them need that temperature spread between low and high in order to initiate spiking like the bigger flowered varieties do.
Okay, that's a great point.
Yeah, and that's another reason I fell in love with all of them. It just more bounty.
Very nice.
Nothing more beautiful than a classic large cascading phalaenopsis, right? I let other people sell them.
There you go. That's awesome. All right, well, thanks, Carrie. It was great. I think we're going to move on for J&L. So more along the miniature variety. J&L's been around a long time, specializing in all kinds of miniatures, variety of species. A lot of cooler growing plants, which is something I always laugh at people down in Florida say, yeah, you guys can grow really well. Yeah, you can grow fast, but you can't grow everything you want. Here, we have to pay for heat, but we can grow whatever we want. So we kind of get lucky on some of the cooler stuff, because some of the cooler stuff has a lot of interesting color forms, interesting species that you just can't grow if you grow somewhere warm. So we are a little bit kind of at a benefit up here in the Northeast. And so we're going up to Connecticut and meeting up with Lucas. If you got your mic on there, buddy. I'm going to jump in. So Lucas now is, well, I don't want to say who you are. Is it you and your mom now that are running J&L?
Yeah, my mother and also Cordelia, one of the previous hunters. She's still very much involved, still teaching us, still has a hand in a lot of things that we're doing. So J&L, it started out down in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. That was Janet and Lee Kuhn. They, 2 chemists who really were into orchids. They would go down to South America often for whatever chemical thing. I think petroleum was the main chemical.
I know. Around. Oh, sorry. No, I left it in the car.
I need to
Sorry.
go grab some.
Well, mute that.
Is the robe unlocked?
Yeah.
So, and that was back then when people were a lot more able to go out and discover a lot of plants, and they
Mute her.
would bring a lot of these, especially miniatures, when very few people were interested in species. So back in the 60s, there was not really much interest in things other than Victorian style classical orchids. So they started importing in and taking with them, collecting these small different species and being able to propagate them. So yeah, that's sort of where it started, was this idea of growing all these different miniature varieties and different things, that these odds and ends, and then picking out the nicest ones of them, seeing which ones grew well, which ones were a little hard to continue on, and finding ways to either breed them into different things or to find just which ones did better. So yeah, that was back in the 60s, where then they retired, the two of them, and left it to their two employees. And they brought on, so that was Cordelia and Marguerite. They then brought on their friend who was out from California to help them run the business. And they really took it in a more commercial way rather than being a little hobby. They wanted to make this their living.
Yeah.
And that's when they started to figure out how to do mail order catalogs. They were one of the, I think, the first orchid people on the internet, using mail order, and then traveling around to all around the world. They traveled to Japan, they traveled to South Africa, out in the UK. There used to be one in the outskirts of London. There used to be a show that they, and they did the World Orchid Congresses. So they traveled around a lot in Germany, all different places, and bringing in and collecting and taking back, finding out what was different, what was new. And so, yeah, that's sort of what we got into. We don't quite have as much fancy stuff as they did, but we are really interested in trying to propagate miniature species, especially different, weird, and really different orchid hybrids. So
is your focus really on, say weird or different or unique species? Are you mainly cool growing or just miniatures? What do you think? What would you call like your specialty? And I know you guys grow everything, but what is like, because with us, like we grow everything, but Cattleyas. So what do you think your main focus is in your type of plants that you like to grow, to sell, whatever?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Part of it is South American, so pleurothalids. It's a branch of orchids. So we have a nice collection of Masdevallia hybrids. So Masdevallias, also species. But I guess that's one thing that sets us a little apart, is our collection of Masdevallias. All of our plants.
You guys were integral in breeding Masdevallias. Do you have a lot of those same things that you guys made there? Are you still breeding? What goes on with the Masdevallias right now?
So yeah, we still have a lot of it, of those plants. Right now we're doing mostly division. I'm trying to figure out how to propagate them through seed, and having a bit of difficulty with the lab.
Yeah, it's always fun right now trying to find a good lab, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah. So we're trying to work on our own. The lab they used to have, that fell apart. Old building. It's I guess now a 60-year-old building. So a lot of the original equipment doesn't really work anymore. So we've been trying to source new parts, new things. So we're working on that. Someday soon, I have all this seed that I'm trying to germinate, but it will eventually happen.
That's right.
And yeah, so we do a lot of divisions, since that's easy enough for us.
Well, advanced Avilias really propagate pretty easily, don't they?
Yeah. Once they get going, they grow pretty fast. They don't need to, even from seed, they don't really take as long to grow. They, since they're only a few inches tall, they reach maturity very quickly.
Okay.
And you can fit in a 3-inch pot. You can have a really nice old plant full of like 40 leaves on this plant, 40 different growths that you can then divide up into several different plants from.
Aside from getting like, I know the J and L part, but how did you personally get interested in plants?
So I feel like most people don't really get interested in plants. You just sort of have been. I mean, I've always been playing around with trying to grow different plants. I wasn't very successful at it. It wasn't really till I started growing orchids, till actually I met Cordelia and the previous owners, where I actually learned to actually grow an orchid. So those were the first plants I could actually keep alive, other than things out in the garden that grew on their own and didn't really require anything. So yeah, we met, I guess, a little over 5 years ago. And we sort of were just driving by Connecticut and driving through Connecticut really, and stopped by and met them, and they were talking about how they wanted to retire. They were retiring, selling the house. My brother works in sailing with sailboats, boats in general. So he wanted to move out here. And so we sort of, between the family, just sort of decided to move out here in Connecticut, and with Cordelia, really figure out how to keep the business afloat.
That's awesome. I'm really glad you guys have Cordelia too, because we've seen, somebody tries to run a business that maybe hasn't done orchid business before, and for all of us that run it, we know that it's literally farm life, and you have to love it, and you have to sort of know what you're doing, because you can't just have one of those or the other. You really have to have both. So you guys are really blessed to have her, and they do a great job. So I'm glad you guys have her kind of helping you along, getting you going. So it's exciting. So I know I've seen you around some of the shows down in Florida and such. So how do you guys acquire new material? Do you travel to do it? Do you buy from overseas or down in South America? What do you guys do for acquiring new equipment or new plant material? And also, are you doing your own breeding?
Yeah, we do some of our own breeding, not as much. We get a lot of, one of the nice things about having Cordelia being involved with so many different people is there's always someone who specializes in one little thing. So we get different terrestrial things from, there's a breeder down in Pennsylvania. He does especially like habanerias. So every so often we'll buy things from him. Also Zygopetalum hybrids. Then there's out in California, we know a bunch of people. So we try to just use our contacts to get a couple special things here and there. So what's nice about Florida is a lot of people come to meet there. So it's one way to have, especially overseas people, bring in things that we either want to try out new things or things we know grow well. It's a way for us to do all of our, I guess, acquisition. I don't know. Bring in all these different like seedlings or things there. Otherwise, yeah, we have flasking out that we buy in a lot of different flasks from around the country, overseas as well.
That's a great way to do it. Easier to bring them in flask too, right?
Yeah, especially overseas because all the paperwork is much easier, and also you can if you just have the patience, you get a lot more out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And you get to see all the variations that can come out of the plant.
For
a lot
sure.
of times,
I've actually got a friend in Hawaii. He says he doesn't grow any meristems. He says, I want to see every single one of them different. And I guess that's great for some people, and other people want to know what they're getting. So it's kind of, I guess it goes both ways.
It also lets, so what's nice about seedlings is a lot of plants, they sort of take, they don't adapt as quickly to everything. So seedlings, because they're sort of adapting once to these environments, you get to choose the strongest ones. You get to find which ones are better for these different conditions. And I think that sometimes if you buy a mature plant, it's so well calibrated to one specific environment that it's been growing in that the seedlings still have that adaptability to them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it also can source out the strong ones. I know even like Alan Koch, he would always say, I'd take the first two to bloom and I cross them. I take the first two to bloom and I cross them. And then I colchicine everything. That's like his method. But that way he is giving you a better quality plant right off the bat.
Yeah.
So, all right, so anything we didn't touch on? I mean, what do you think, like if I was to come to J&L Orchids and I'm going to buy the one plant that you think is really special that you're going to have at our nursery for sale next weekend, what should I be looking for? What are you going to bring down with you when you come down to our shop?
So I'm in the greenhouse. I don't know. I mean, everyone's taste is a little different. So it sort of depends on how small you want things. We have a bunch of, so I guess these are little Cattleya relatives, little like, species from like Lalias from Brazil, Sophronitis, little Neoconoeas from, that was from Jamaica. And I don't know,
well, you guys also would really have the sort of plant that would grow really well in like a terrarium, right? Because I know a lot of our customers actually do terrariums and that sort of thing. Yeah,
definitely. Terrariums are probably one of the better places to keep them because with small plants on a windowsill, things can dry out really fast. So having somewhere to keep the humidity a little higher just makes things a lot easier. So yeah, we actually put some plants in boxes instead to
can keep the humidity up and all.
Yep. Keep the humidity and also to protect stabilize the temperature.
Well, is there one particular plant that you think is the best thing you could put in a terrarium that's like a rock star that's just going to hold up and just do well regardless of the small specific changes of more humidity, less humidity, or warm or cool? Is there one plant that you just say is great for a terrarium?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch.
I want one plant because I'm going to pin you down, buddy.
Yeah. So I really like Masdevallia ventricosa. It's a neat little sort of yellow-green flower. The plant's only...
I lost your video feed there.
Oh. Can you see me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah. So it's in a little... it's a tiny little plant, but it's pretty strong grower. Really just... It doesn't take much for it to take off.
So now that you suggested that one, you make sure you bring at least one when you come here, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, they have these little chartreuse flowers,
Oh, cute.
little
Okay.
stripes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Could
we have
you
to
hold
use.
that? Could you hold that right in front of you? Because your dark sweatshirt, we may be able to see the flower. Put it in front of your
Oh, yeah.
sweatshirt. There you go. Hold it still for a second. Yeah, we can see it. That's cool. Very neat.
Yeah. So yeah, we have to use little shot glasses to make our pots because they don't really come that small.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking forward to having you down here next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend. So excited that you're coming down, and we're looking forward to all of your cool little minis and everything that you're going to bring. So thanks, Lucas. I appreciate it. And now, is it going to be you or your mom that's going to be here at the shop?
It's probably going to be my mom. My mom and Cordelia will probably be the ones going down.
Awesome. Cool. All right, very good. So thank you very much. And we're going to introduce Kim Feddersen from Fair Orchids. Kim, it's good to have you. See if we get you to unmute your mic. Find you here. Let me just scroll down here. There we go. Can you unmute Kim, please, Bill? I got you. Are you there? Kim, I want to be able to hear you nice and loud. All right. So Kim Feddersen, excited to have him. He's going to be, well, he specializes in all kinds of things. I love pendulous cymbidiums, and I know that's one of his really special kind of plants. So we're looking forward to seeing pendulous cymbidiums, of course. Kim also does some neos, does cattleyas, paths, kind of a mixture of plants. So always interesting to see what he's going to do. Kim does a lot of his own breeding too. So he has things that are unique to just Fair Orchids. And I'm hoping we can get his audio on because I want him to do the talking. If you can't, while Kim figures that out, Carrie, you've been listening for a while. Is there anything that you thought of that you didn't say earlier? If you want to pop back on for a minute or two while Kim figures out his audio.
Okay, I'm back on. No, I think I said enough.
Come on. We get experts on here. We like to get, pick your brain as much as we can.
By the way, there are also, Lucas was talking about shot glasses. There literally are little clear pots that you can buy on Amazon also, made in Taiwan. They're like 1.7 inches across, rigid plastic, and they're great. It's just like a shot glass. You got to find them somewhere. Ooh, yeah. Yes, to answer whoever asked that, I have a plant list online. It's on the Waldor site, but a lot of the plants have already sold out because I released it quite a while ago, about 3 weeks ago. So I was trying to put together a new list, which if David is agreeable, I will send him an updated list so people aren't disappointed.
Yeah, we can always do that. And that's another thing too, with both JNL, Carrie, and Ashley with Kim. If you get a hold of them, if you're looking for something specific, we did put this out in an email, but we want you to pre-order. As vendors, we love coming somewhere where we already have some things that's very specific that people are looking for. We put it in email earlier, but I put it this way. People come up to us at the sales booth at the show. Do you have such and such? And we say, yes, we do, back at the nursery.
Right. So that's always the problem. Always the problem. If you pre-order, you're guaranteed, if it's not sold out, of getting what you want. And to answer whoever's question, I didn't notice who asked it. Yes, each if you go to the page that David has up now, you'll see I do a description of each plant, a photo, the size, the fact that it's fragrant or a miniature or a novelty or a big lip or a polaric or whatever. So yeah, everything's very self-explanatory on my pages.
Yeah, we'd be glad to put up a new list. If you put something else out, we'll update it right away. And
do I send it to your personal?
Yeah, just email me. Yeah, I've got whatever emails up there. I check them all the time. So
send
it to us and we'll get up your fresh
because
list.
I realized I was going through it to put together the March list, and I thought, oh my gosh, I had to remove a lot of plants from the list.
Yeah. Well, one of the funny things is, Carrie says that this is a couple weeks old and she thinks that's outdated. But most of us know if we look at orchid sites, they could be a couple years out of date. Yeah. That's how most of us usually so I asked Lucas the same question. So I know you're growing minis too. Do you have things that work well in terrariums?
Yes.
Okay, and this is phales and other species. Do you have some phales that do well?
Miniature Oncidiums, some of the miniature Cattleyas actually too.
Mm-hmm.
They would do better in a terrarium if you don't have the humidity too high.
Okay.
I've got one which is Ficon ball,
Mm-hmm.
and it stands at the most 2 inches tall.
Oh, geez.
And
Nice.
it's in flower right now. In fact, I just sent one off on a mail order that was in flower too. They're wonderful, the Ficon balls. There are super minis.
Yeah, it's another thing we mentioned too with the pre-orders is that most of us normal people up here in the Northeast realize that it actually gets cold out. So it's a much better way for us to get your plants, you know, instead of trying to ship them and taking a chance on freezing something. If you can pick it up at a show, it's a much better way and safer way of getting plants to you without damaging them. So pre-orders are the way to go. And I was going to mention too, with Carrie and Lucas and Kim, I mean, all these guys are going to be packing up, probably coming down even a day or so before the show. So if you get to them by early next week, you can probably still get a plant delivered to the show. Ecuador, I believe, has already closed their pre-order list because they're bringing stuff directly from Ecuador to the show. So they have to go through CITES and all the other paperwork. So they have to have their list together ahead of time. So they believe they've already shut down their pre-order list. But
yeah, but by having us bring things, you save the shipping,
okay.
the cost of shipping. Yeah.
Yeah. So Kim, have you figured out your thing yet? If not, Billy puts you on where you can actually call in on that phone number for the audio, if that helps. I know I've done that before. Yeah, actually dial the number up and do it that way. And yeah, we really want to have Kim come on because right now is pendulous Cymbidium season. I've got a couple in the greenhouse. I as an orchid collector, and most of us know, we start buying something and it's so easy to get carried away buying a whole bunch of other stuff. And I've sort of gotten hooked on pendulous Cymbidiums in the past couple of years. So I started picking up a few. And it's a slippery slope for any one of us if we start opening up a new avenue of collecting. And I think most of us as orchid collectors, we have a collecting gene, just like, you know, we have a plant gene in us. I think we also have a collecting gene. And it definitely can get, like I said, a real slippery slope in, you know, going down a rabbit hole of a whole new collecting line. So I'm trying to get, you know, some of the pendulous Cymbidiums, but at the same time, I'm like, do I really need another plant? And yet, yes, I do. Yeah, of course. And yeah, it's always neat to see something new. I know we have a couple of Cymbidium Kiwi Midnight, I think it's called, in bloom right now. And it's just dark red. I mean, it's hard to even describe the color. It's so dark. And these beautiful little pendulous stems. And I know I've seen Kim's plants where they get huge stems on them. Mine are kind of just getting going. And it's always neat to see something that's going to get that large. So while Kim is still working on his audio, I want to talk to you guys about Ecuador too. Unfortunately, Betsy's not able to join us tonight. It's my fault. I got to her late. There again, we're talking. This is sort of an impromptu last minute thing. And I was dealing, I know a lot of you guys know Michael Riley. He's the one that would normally be at like the Deep Cut show selling for Ecuador from New York. We're actually going to have Betsy here, and she is one of the family members, and she actually lives here in Jersey now. And I think they're actually going to be, I don't know what giving it away, but I think they're actually going to maybe starting a place up here in Jersey. I know they just opened up down in Florida. I've been to their place down in Apopka, so Ecuador USA down in Apopka, Florida. That's a cool place. Lots of aeroids there. Not a lot of orchids, but when I say not a lot, they do have a decent amount of orchids, but the aeroids are kind of the star down there. And they're going to be bringing plants here to the shop. I know they're bringing aeroids for the aeroid people out there, which we know is kind of I think they're crazier than orchid people. So, but that's hopefully what they're going to be bringing a lot of. And also they always have some Cattleya things. I know I buy a lot of Schomburgkia hybrids from them, and also like Cattleya maximas. I think that Ecuador has some of the finest Cattleya maximas I've ever seen. I bought a bunch from them. I've gotten some really, really good quality maximas. Kim, you got your audio on there?
Well, I managed to dial in. I have a problem with the audio on my laptop.
Well, I'll stop talking then while you got your audio on, and we'll introduce Kim Feddersen from Fair Orchids. So, Kim, tell us what you're going to be bringing to our place next weekend.
Well, to start a little bit before that, I'm sort of also a third generation. My grandfather was heavily into botany, especially orchids. He spent 10 years in Malaysia and traveled throughout Southeast Asia. And one of his exploits out there was that he planted Oncidium verrucosum, on a mountain in Sri Lanka to see whether they would grow there. And he properly reported his exploits to the RHS. So nobody would get surprised over finding Oncidiums in Sri Lanka. But my dad had a retail orchid nursery, primarily for cut flower production. So I'm sure Dave finds that somewhat familiar.
Right.
And he used both Paphiopedilum, Cattleyas, and Oncidium, and to some extent Phalaenopsis for that purpose. And growing up, I couldn't care less. Then,
Me
when
too.
I was 15, my high school hosted an American high school band, and the kids were staying with various families in the area, including my family. And the next year there was a return trip, which I wanted to join. And my dad said, "Sure, you can go. You just got to earn the ticket yourself."
Nice.
And that meant that in the summer of '68, I started working for him at about 65 cents an hour, which eventually made it. I managed to scrape enough funds together that I visited the U.S. the first time in '69. And working in the nursery for that year sort of kindled my interest in the orchids. And I kept working for him for 9 years, after school, weekends, and so we were open 364 days a year. So there was always something to be done. Then I dropped out of orchids for a number of years. And when I met my second wife, I gave her a couple of Phalaenopsis for Valentine's Day back in '93. And then the rest is history.
That's right.
I grew orchids as a hobby grower up to about 2010. And then I started investing more, knowing that I wanted to have a small orchid nursery by the time I retired.
Small, huh? Look at you being optimistic.
Well, I was renting 600 square feet up at Tewksbury Orchids. And when the freeze hit, it wiped out all 600 square feet but 12 plants. Fortunately, I had transferred all my cool growing plants down to Flemington Orchids because I was running out of space. So I had those, and then I rebuilt the rest. Now, some of you might recall Ron Midget, who used to live here in New Jersey, AOS judge, and he called me an orchid schizophrenic. Who else do you know who grows Cymbidium, slippers, and vandas? Cool, intermediate, and warm, but somehow I managed. And at this point, I have about 2,500 square feet. I have a hoop greenhouse at Flemington Orchids. I rented a little bit of the space to somebody who is even more of an orchid nut, Kyle Saunders. And Kyle is a bad influence.
That's right.
Because now I have a lot of Cattleyas also.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I primarily wanted to have the business as with sales only at shows. And that worked okay the first couple of years, and then COVID hit. So in the past 24 months, I've been to exactly one show. But I do have 6 or 7 scheduled for the remainder of this spring, and hopefully they will take place. So what do I do? Well, I grow Cymbidium, slippers. I was away from slippers for a while because Glenn Decker was sort of covering the market. But now that Glenn has retired, I have started going back in that direction. A lot of Cattleyas and a fair amount of, especially the smaller Vandaceas. Currently, I have a number of crosses or seedlings which are crosses between Hocoglossum and Vandaceus or Vandas.
And some of those
And I
things are
consider
really awesome
those-
color forms now, aren't they? You're really introducing a kind of a really different form of the flower and better color, I think, with the Hocoglossums, right?
There are some interesting colors, and the plants are actually, in my opinion, significantly easier to grow, because Hocoglossums are from deciduous mountain forests in China, meaning they are accustomed to a very cool and dry winter. And then in the summer, deciduous forests, it doesn't get as bright as it would for the tropical species. So they should grow much easier under sort of middle of the road conditions. So they're growing fine in my greenhouse, and some of them are approaching blooming size now. And that's some of the plants I'll be bringing down next weekend. Based on the conversations with the other participants, I sort of source my plants wherever I can. I buy flasks, I buy compots, and in some cases, when I see something interesting, I jump on it and buy a fair amount of seedlings. Brett Clark just released his latest Cattleya listing. I don't know whether everybody else has been through it as extensively as Kyle and I did.
It's like the Sears and Roebuck catalog, isn't it?
Yeah. But I saw he had made a remake of something that really interested me. He made a remake of Lelia Cattleya Miss Wonderful.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Which is half anceps.
Yeah.
And I couldn't resist, so I bought 20 of those. And a few other things, of course.
Of course.
And in addition to that, I do some breeding on my own. Currently, I have 3 Cymbidium Crosses in production, 2 of them being pendulous. And I have sort of surprised even myself a little bit. Those crosses were deflasked at the end of October in 2020. So they are currently about 16 months out of flask. And the biggest plants are about 18 inches tall and have 3 to 5 new growths on that initial seedling. So I don't want to jinx myself, but I have grown Cymbidiums from plug size to bloom, where I got 1 plant to bloom in 2 years, and the majority in 3.
Yeah.
So I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that I'll see 1 or 2 bloom in 24 months or 28 months, whatever it'll be, with the majority to bloom in 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And I'll have a fair number of those plants along for sale. They've grown so well that I'm busy right now putting them up into 4-inch and 6-inch pots, depending upon their respective sizes. And the intention is to keep them in that pot till they bloom.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I know I gave you a few of them 6 months ago or so.
That's right.
But it really, I mean, and one of those crosses is sort of, it not only is it pendulous, but the pot parent got best in show at North Jersey in January, and the pollen parent got best in show at CPUS in April.
Nice.
So, and both of them have AOS awards. So I consider these to be possibly halfway decent.
Yeah, right. Well, that's
but then
exciting.
again,
Go ahead.
as we all know, with seed-grown plants, I mean, some are indifferent, some are good, and some are compost.
Yeah, Roy Tokunaga told me one time there was 80-20 breeding and 20-80 breeding. And he said 80-20
Right.
is when you make an obvious cross and 80% are going to be wonderful and the other 20% are average. And 20-80 is you get 20% that are really something unique and special and different, and the other 80 you throw out. So
Exactly.
but no,
And
like using good parentage, like you said, is super, super important. And I know you've been collecting a lot of the pendulous plants and breeding with them. So have you had any
right.
trouble? Because I know a lot of these are coming out of, say, even Australia or something like that, and they can be difficult to get a hold of. So how is your supply line working? And are you
Well,
doing mostly your own breeding, or are you also being able to acquire new plant stock and flasks other
new
places?
then I mean I'm always on the lookout for new plant stock. Hatfield seems to have gone out of business. His website is down, and
I actually talked
I
to him
haven't.
just a few weeks ago, and what he said was, because I was actually looking for plants, because I don't know if you guys follow George Hadfield or not on Instagram or Facebook, but he has wonderful, wonderful, beautiful plants, and he's always posting something that just is spectacular, and a lot of the kind of breeding like Kim is into with the pendulous cymbidiums. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you ever sell any of these things? Like, I'd buy some just because I like pendulous cymbidiums and spotted ones and whatever. And he had basically said that he's cut way back to where he has a couple of people that he supplies. And aside from that, he did say he would be selling some flasks. So we'll keep an eye out for that. I'm sure Kim and I will both be on that if we can get some. So
Absolutely. I was after Andy Easton, and he is really own. I mean, he's selling his entire production to just 2 or 3 people also. About 2 or 3 years ago, Cal Orchids had a guy from the Netherlands come in as a guest vendor. And I bought more than I could really afford from him at that time. And I have 3 or 4 of those plants in bloom right now. The most interesting one is the flower quality is not great, but imagine a slightly fuller Cymbidium divanianum with creamy white flowers and a solid red lip.
right.
And that's, I mean, I've never seen anything like that anywhere else. So I think I pollinated it with 3 or 4 different things and used the pollen on 3 or 4 different things.
Definitely.
Now, with Cymbidium, it's really a little bit of a hit or miss. Last blooming season, I made my usual 20 or 30 attempts, and I did not get a single mature pod out of it. They all aborted.
And how long did it hang on the pod, after you make the cross?
I went back and checked my records. The seedlings that I have right now were all pollinated in February and sent to the lab in September.
Okay.
So they have to survive the heat of the summer.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the issues come in. Because a lot of them, they take initially, they develop up to a point, and then all of a sudden they fall off.
Mm-hmm.
And my guess, I mean, I'm guessing that it's a heat issue. So right now, I'm attempting some crosses that I'm not really that confident in, but it's more a question of the more pots I get started,
Right.
maybe I'll get some of them out at the other end.
Yeah.
And then, despite my lack of knowledge and experience with the Cattleya genetics, I haven't been able to keep the toothpick away.
Mm-hmm.
I have about 10 pots in the lab right now, and I have another 8 to 10 pots coming along. Some of them are fairly obvious things, and some of them are, should we call them, highly speculative.
That's right. And one thing that's interesting in breeding is that you'll actually see the person who's doing the hybridizing, you'll see a bit of their personality come out in their crosses. So we're all going to judge you by the crosses you make.
Well, one of my personal hang-ups with orchids is I love spotted flowers.
Yeah, me too.
And about 3 years ago, this would have been in early 18, I got some plugs of a cross that was Cattleya multi-spot crossed with Hilo Grand.
Nice.
So that is an Eclandier spotted type
Mhm.
crossed onto a corsage type
Huge.
hybrid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I bloomed 6 or 7 of them by now, and some of them have I'll call it a little bit of speckling on the tip of the petals, the tip of the sepals. Several of them show heavy veining, so there's pigment coming through in other ways in those flowers.
Mm-hmm.
And the best one of those I crossed with 2 of my best spotted,
Nice.
and those parts are both in the lab.
Yeah, what Kim's talking about is really difficult because all the spots come from really Eclandiae Shoriana. They're all small, kind of skinny petaled species. So to breed that up to a large flower size is actually pretty difficult.
Right. But I mean, some of the better spotted ones are, well, the ones I used to breed the second generation here have much fuller petals. They are probably 4th, 5th generation spotted, but they are all based on Eclandiae and Guttata.
Yeah.
That's the genetic background. And then well, again, I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm also considering using Lodigicii because many Lodigicii carry some speckling or light spotting. So I think they should be candidates for producing some bigger flowers with spots.
Cool. So as far as coming down to our place next weekend, what's something that you're bringing that you want people to really look for? Or if you have something on pre-order that you could say, hey, this is really something that I'm very excited to bring, or something that you could even pre-order with you, what would you suggest?
Well, good question. I mean, obviously I'll be bringing some
too, man. I'm not talking 20 plants. I want 1 or 2, very specific here.
Well, let me put it this way. Whether my pendulous Cymbidium seedlings are going to be good or not, I don't know. But it's been really difficult to find pendulous Cymbidiums for the past 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
And that is one of the things I will be bringing. And then, of course, I mean, why should I bring Cattleyas to Waldor? Well, I have some spotted seedlings and a few things. And if I have the time, I have a few really interesting things that I need to divide, but I don't know whether that'll get done in time.
That's the story of every orchid person's life.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's and well, actually, you or Beth are holding a few of my plants from the last judging. And
well, we were, but New York Botanical Gardens, they called us up and they wanted big specimen plants for a benefit dinner. So I was able to send them a couple of your plants. I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
They like that.
I'll return the favor someday.
Yeah. Now, so you actually got a couple of awards a couple of weeks ago at judging. Want to tell people about that real quick?
See, nobody told me whether I got any awards, so that's news to me.
Oh, no, I think they awarded that Cymbu lady, which is Anceps by some
Wendy's Valentine.
Wendy's Valentine. So Kim had a plant of that, just tremendous flowers everywhere. I've never seen one of these as well grown as this plant. I remember seeing one at Philadelphia Flower Show. Baird Saraduke had one with like 6 stems, like perfectly arranged, like a little rainbow. Kim's plant is enormous and one of the best grown plants of that flower I've ever seen. Lady.
It was not staked very well, but it did have 22 flower spikes in a 7-inch pot.
There was some mention of that, I think, at the judging table that I think you dropped them off and then they fixed it a little for you. So God bless those judges in Philadelphia.
Thanks. Yeah, well, the story behind that plant is that I had intended to repot it last year, but I had a seed pod on it.
Yeah.
So I left it alone till the seed pod matured, and by then it was too late to break it up.
Yeah.
So it got another year in the same pod.
Nice. I tell people all the time, come into our shop and own big plants, and they say, hey, I want to cut this up. I want to make. I say, wait, you have something unique and special nobody else has in this huge plant. Leave it together. Why would you want to be like everybody else when you have something completely unique here? But that plant, something about it, it's much beefier than I've ever seen. And I think, you know, having it that big and strong in the pot is really what's pushing it. That
Yeah.
plant is very, like, it's finicky about its root system. And by keeping it well established like that, I think you got an awesome blooming on it. So congratulations on that.
Right.
It's wonderful. And it'll be here, I guess, for the weekend. So anybody that comes next weekend for the show, it still looks pretty good. I mean, it's beautiful sitting in the greenhouse. So,
And actually, I probably have about 15 or 20 little meristems of that plant.
nice. Well, you should probably
So-
bring them because they won't find
I'll-
that one here at Waldor. I don't think I have any of them left to sell. Yeah. So
Okay,
definitely.
good. I
would
mean, I
suggest it.
was going to check with you on that. I'll bring
Yeah.
some of them because I probably have about 10 plants in bloom right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a wonderful, wonderful plant. So.
And the nice thing about this plant is Laelia anceps often is a runner.
Yeah.
It grows about 1 inch to 2 between the bulbs. Simbu Lady is really tight.
Yep.
Many
You
of the
have
plants
you
I
have a
have are
tremendous specimen there in what, a 7 or 8 inch pot?
7-inch pot, yeah.
One thing quick too, we're just about finished. We're going to wrap it up soon, but if any of you have any questions, go down to the bottom of your screen. You can hit the chat button, type some questions there in the chat box, and we'll do our best to have some of these wonderful people answer your questions for you. I did speak a little, Kim. Like I say, thank you very much. I want to keep going here because we've been on about an hour and I don't want to take up everybody's evening. But we will have Equigender come, and I mentioned that Betsy will be here selling plants. I did hear from Michael that because of the lack of shows, a lot of the material they've been bringing in is extra large. So I hope that excites a lot of the crazy aeroid people that you get a little bit bigger cutting, because we know as aeroids go, every node is worth something. So you're going to see some really tremendous plants from them, and we're excited to have them. And yeah, so I'm really looking forward to doing this with you guys. We're excited to have it here at our shop and to, you know, bring in some of these local people and have something here. I think it's going to be special. One thing, I hate to say it could be a one-off, you know, so you definitely should come do this. This is sort of, instead of a deep cut show, we're able to do this. And normally this week we would be prepping for Philadelphia Flower Show. It's a little thing we do every year that takes up like 6 weeks of our life. So I don't know if this is going to happen every winter, but we do plan on holding something here like this at some point in time. Most likely it would be more towards summer or fall in future years, but this is kind of a one-off, and there's lots of stuff in flower right now. Like I mentioned earlier on, a lot of us grow plants specifically for what we call like the show season, which is like right now. And I would say our greenhouses are pretty much at their peak bloom, where we have Cattleyas and Cymbidiums and all those different things going off. Even phales are coming in spike and that sort of thing. So lots of things going on right now in the orchid groups. So we have lots to see in flower. It's a great time of the year, I think, to buy plants, because I look out my backyard and everything's gray. So we like to see some color this time of the year. So that's another reason we love to grow orchid plants. So really excited to do this. I think we're gonna have a great turnout. The hype for this is gonna be really high up there. And my sister did a show last weekend down in Maryland, and they just got absolutely crush. The tremendous support there from the orchid people. So I think we're gonna see a similar thing up here. And we're looking forward to a nice weekend. Like I said, the weather looks like it's cooperating, even though my friend, the amateur weatherman, tried to wish snow on me because they didn't have hot dogs or some crazy thing. So sorry, Joe. The weather's looking pretty good. And yeah, we're excited to do this. And we're hoping that all you here tonight will make a decision to come. And if you can't, then call these people up, these other vendors. Check out their websites, check out their listings, see some interesting plants. And I think this is all kind of getting us stirred up to buy more orchids, grow more orchids. And I'm not just saying that from a vendor standpoint. Those of you who know me know I have a huge orchid collection of my own. And I'm as addicted as the next person. And I absolutely love shopping for orchid plants. I go to a show, like I hate to tell you guys this, but when these vendors show up at my place, I'm going to be like rooting through their boxes myself. So but I will leave some plants for y'all. But I do love looking at orchid plants. I get disappointed when I go to a show and I hardly buy anything. The last show I went to, I bought one plant for myself, and I was on the road for 2 weeks. I literally was like a starving man by the time I got home because I was only able to buy one plant. Normally I get a couple of boxes or so. So really excited to have you guys come. We're excited to bring these other people into our shop and show you some interesting or different plants. If you've never been able to see these vendors before, I really hope you come and that you see some plants and buy some plants and enjoy this wonderful hobby we have, that's orchids. So thank you very much to Carrie, Kim, and Lucas. And like I said, we're looking forward to this next weekend and appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Thanks a bunch.